So cybersecurity is no different than probably any other industry that has certain buzzwords that you keep hearing about and you keep repeating, and sometimes people don't really know what they are. I may have a different definition to you. It's this particular word I've used in my presentations before, and I kind of have an interpretation of what it means. But I'm just wondering, what's your take on the word digital transformation? What is that to you? What is it to Fortinet?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. You're quite right. It means many things to many different people. For me personally, I've always looked at digital transformation as using technology and the technology that Fortinet makes with the Fortinet fabric to solve real business challenges and problems. And I'll give you an example of that. So SD-WAN is high growth business for us, and we're doing very, very well with SD-WAN. I was with a partner a couple of weeks ago working on a use case. Their customer is in the automotive industry. They've got garages up and down the country. I can't remember the model and makes of the cars, but it's garages where customers come in, they get their cars serviced. That's one of the things they do. And this particular use case was around SD-WAN. And if you think of what SD-WAN does as a technology, it's a way of distributing network traffic across a wide area network. So they had all their branch offices. They were hauling data back to the main headquarters with MPLS. They weren't differentiating between traffic. So they had a real bandwidth issue. And this came about because they couldn't meet their customers' demands properly. And what I mean by this, customers were bringing cars into the garage to be serviced. The mechanics were servicing them. And because most cars now contain computers and they need updating, the mechanics were pressing the update firmware button, and the car would just sit there for hours while it updated its firmware. And that created a problem because they couldn't meet the demands of their customers. They couldn't service cars quickly enough. They also weren't getting full productivity out of their mechanics because when they were updating the firmware, there was nothing for them to do. So they introduced Fortinet Fabric, they introduced SD-WAN, they deployed the fabric, they had FortiManager and FortiAnalyzer hosted in a public cloud. So they reduced the management complexity as well as having all the advantages of SD-WAN. They also increased their security efficacy by introducing some of the security products, and the business problem was solved. By the way, the mechanics hated it because previously when they were updating firmware, they'd go off and have a cup of tea or read a newspaper. So they hated it, the business loved it, but they used the Fortinet fabric, the technology that we make and manufacture to solve those real world business challenges. And for me, that's what digital transformation is all about.
Yeah, I'd kind of go along with that. That's a very good. There's two things I'd like to pick up there, I suppose. The first one, and you repeated it a couple of times there, business problem. There was a business problem. Yeah. Fortinet solved the business problem. I always thought when I first started working with Fortinet were at the forefront of trying to solve a business problem. So it wasn't inventing a technology and pushing it to the customer. It was, customer, what's your problem? Have we got a solution for you? This is how you implement it. And the other word, the SD-WAN, so software defined wide area network. So software defined networking. When I started out 20 odd years ago, people of a certain vintage will remember this. When you needed to change something, you have to get onto CLI, change command lines, and you could have 20 switches, maybe 5 firewalls. You have to change them all, and human error and everything like that kind of came into play here. So I think it's being termed as east-west traffic as well as north-south that we need to change, and that's where software-defined kind of comes into play. And that is definitely where Fortinet have been at the forefront for a long, long time now. It's the automation, the machine learning, the AI, the changing at a click of a button, using the likes of FortiManager to make changes right across the whole security fabric very, very quickly. And of course, admins love you for that reason because they're still very simple fix, or on paper at least a very complicated fix, but in reality it's very straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah, and it brings it back to the power of the fabric. We've got this cybersecurity mesh architecture, and that's how Gartner are labeling it now, cybersecurity mesh architecture. Fortinet have been talking about the fabric for a long time, and that's our version of that, if you like, where all these products are closely integrated, doing something very, very useful and very technical. But we've also because we've got that broad fabric that's fully integrated and automated, and we're seeing a lot of vendor consolidation as well, which is ideal for this sort of fabric scenario. And what I mean by that is, over the past 20 years, there's been this concept of buying best of breed, looking at Gartner Magic Quadrants, doing loads of proof of concepts, doing a bunch of research. Now that's very important, but it's created this complex environment where you might have 20 different solutions across multiple different vendors, none of them talking to each other. So customers now are approaching it with this vendor consolidation philosophy. Great for Fortinet, but they're also demanding a lot more of us in terms of a real life business partnership. So, CISOs are getting involved in procurement. They might be putting KPIs on us in terms of value realization, operational efficiency, increasing security, efficacy. So it's great. So vendors are being asked for a lot more, customers are getting a lot more, and we're solving some of these real world problems that goes back to digital and business transformation.
Yeah, no, that's 100% agree with you. The way Fortinet are kind of working, and that this, as you say, best of breed. It's now we're trying to solve a solution. It's not our solution selling.
Yeah, think projects, not products.
That's a great way of, it's, you have to treat it as a project, look at the bigger picture rather than look at a point solution. Those days are gone, I believe. And definitely if you talk to Gartner or look at their way, that's the way they're thinking as well. It's a open ecosystem society, and Fortinet with their security fabric is definitely much at the fore there. And of course, Fortinet do recognize their weakness sometimes, and they do talk to other vendors that are not so much with their APIs. That's very much driven.
Absolutely, and it's such a fantastic time to be working at a company like Fortinet in this sort of age and this industry that we're in. It's a great time to be here.
Yeah, and it's great how it goes.
Thank you.
Cheers.